Hey gang, welcome to the introduction for EMS systems. Here are your objectives. I'm not going to read them to you. You guys can read them on your own. Here's the topics of this PowerPoint: the EMS system, the emergency medical responder, the role of public health system, disaster assistance role in research in EMS, and advances in technology. So the EMS system. The EMS system, you know, it started a long time ago. Um, Even before the Civil War, it started back in the era of Napoleon and stuff like that. He was able to, you know, train his people to come up and in the lines and pull the people off the battlefield. Here's timeline. So this gives you a little significant history of everything. So, and again, to recap, 1790 is when Napoleon's was able to develop the system. Again, on the way down, it just keeps going and going um, and back in the 50s, we first used use of helicopters, which was in the Korean Vietnam War, which helped get troops out of the battlefields quicker and better to a hospital. Uh, 1973, Congress again. This is when they started stepping in. They passed the Emergency Medical Services Act. 1988, the National Highway Transportation Safety Act defines the elements necessary for all EMS systems. And again, as you can see, as the history goes on, what has developed and everything, and to us, and what brings today. So, again, the EMS system, you know, integrated, transported, transport by horse-drawn carriages. Um, EMS systems is, basically chain of human resources, services linked together. This helped grow the system. Um, Here's a picture of one of our very first ambulances back in the day. Hearses were used to transport. If you go back and part of our history is Johnny and Roy days. Look at the old TV show Emergency. That'll feature Johnny and Roy. These guys were the pioneers for EMS and what they did and stuff like that out in the field, and kind of what everything else did. So, um, again, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, you know, they these are the components of the EMS system that they came up again, regulation and policy. So they determine what we do out there. They give us resource managements. They tell us, where they can point us in the right direction where we need to utilize different things, or who can be utilized. Again, human resources and training. This is where we get our training and our definitions for training and our guidelines and everything. They also set up what we do for transportation. They take care of our facilities. Um, Communications, which is a key part of our system, they take care of all that. They also do public information and education. They help define medical direction. They help develop trauma systems, and they help do evaluation. So with the system, it kind of starts with the person calling 911, and then that comes into a dispatch center, whether it be your county or whatever EMS system you have. It comes in there to a central dispatch location, and that person deploys the needed resources that we have for this facility. Then, of course, when they do that, then fire and EMS and are called to assist to help the patients. Okay. Then we get the EMTs and paramedics. They continue to do treatment en route to the hospitals with patients that are severe enough. When we get there, we do handoff. We hand off our patient to a nurse or a doctor, and then they take over care and assume the responsibility of patient care at this point. Um, we have a set scope of practice model. We have a national one. We also have a local one. They also set up our EMS education standards, kind of what what defines what our roles and everything does for this part. Okay, here are the levels of EMS training if you're not familiar with them. It starts out with the emergency medical responder, which here in Iowa used to be the EMT, or excuse me, used to be the first responder. Um, the EMT now used to be the EMT basic, is now just the EMT. So, and then we used to have what we called EMTI, which is intermediate, which is the Iowa Intermediate, or which now becomes the Advanced Medical Technician. Uh, then, of course, we have the paramedic, which that's changed a little bit, but not a whole lot of things. We've changed things in the scope of practice here in Iowa, just to, with everybody's, just to more define their roles and everything. So, again, emergency medical responder. They're you guys are the first of our system. As EMRs, you guys are responding there and getting to the scenes before we are as paramedics and EMTs. EMS models, there are several different ones. There's fire-based services, which house ambulances and fire departments. There are the third party, which are the non-fire government or private-owned ambulance services, and then there's hospital-based. I personally work with hospital-based and um, the third service ambulance, which is privately owned, um, and there's a little difference, but not a whole lot of difference with all the systems. We all have the same scope of practice to deal with, but everything's pretty much the same, just your different locations. Scope of practice. This identifies the duties and skills for EMS providers at all levels. EMR, EMT, advanced EMT, and paramedic. It doesn't matter. They're all it defines the roles. Means that we cannot go outside the scope of practice at any time. Otherwise, we could cause harm to our patients. Um, it can be defined by the state or regional statutes. Um, it also defines the related licensing, credentialing, certification. Here in Iowa, we're considered certification, but certification and licensing in the state of Iowa is the same. Activating the EMS system. First of all, the system must be activated by somebody that's either really sick or been injured in of some sort. They call 911, get an emergency dispatcher, and then they send out the responders. Um, so, and again, it says here callers may, and not all systems have a 911 system. Activating the system most desirable 911 service. We also have enhanced 911, meaning that they can communicate. Um, Meaning that our 911 dispatchers have the ability to render care over the phone, and also they give us better locations. Enables communication center. automatically to receive their caller information, so their location and everything with day and age. Okay, so person calls 911. Um, Emergency medical dispatchers, which is people that are trained. They go to school. They go for about 3 or 4 months, and they take some courses so they can render special training for to give people before when they call 911. Um, Again, activating the resources are dispatched at this point. So this is where a dispatcher, we may give them a hard time once in a while but they really have a big job to take care of. They manage all of us. So I mean, sometimes their plate is pretty full, and we gotta be mindful of that and give them respect because they are doing the best they can too at this point. Um, in hospital care systems, and most patients um, are taken from hospital departments. Patients are transferred to appropriate other hospital resources. There's also specialty hospital areas like cath labs, stroke centers, burn centers, that kind of stuff. Medical direction. All of us work under the license of a medical director. Um, we're just an extension of their license. They say, yep, no, we can do this, we can't do that. They they they're our eyes, or we're their eyes out in the field and stuff, and they take a lot of responsibility when they sign on. Medical direction, there's many forms of it. There's offline, which is basically our standard protocols. Online is when you call for medical direction to get an order of some sort over either by phone or radio. And then also it is defined, our scope of practice includes the protocols and guidelines of our jurisdiction. Just to think about it, the EMS system, one thing, it has evolved over the years. It's one thing that's growing. We're a young profession by all means. Um, Again, all EMS systems include these 10 key components. Again, don't forget we have a scope of practice model which defines what we can do as an EMS level, and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration developed the National EMS Education Standards, which training is taught by. That's what I, as an instructor, and the college followed.